Hi, everyone, and welcome. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for joining the day two of the We Balkans event, and also for deciding to spend your lovely Wednesday afternoon with us. I promise that it's going to be worth your time. I am Eris Cunaku, a young European ambassador from the beautiful country of Kosovo, and I'm super proud that I am one of the hosts of the day two event of the online youth activism, the power of the hashtag by We Balkans. With this event, we have wanted to empower and inspire the young people in being active online and also in contributing to social change, whether that is for the environment or anything that they care about by sharing some very inspiring stories of some European leaders for change. So today, I'm very pleased that I'm joined by Meeri Koutaniemi, a young woman who has been able to make the perfect blend between activism, love for humanity, and visual art in the form of photography. Hi, Mary. How are you today?
Hello, everyone. So nice to be here. I'm honored that you asked me to join. So very
Of
happy to
course.
meet you all.
Of course, it's our pleasure. So I've been following you on social media, and it really seems that you live for what you do. And I'm so happy that you will share your story with us and show the young people in Western Balkans, but also all over the world, that we can all make a difference by doing what we love. So before we start, for our viewers who wished to know you better, I would like to give a short intro about you. So Mary is an award-winning photographer and journalist from Finland. Her work has extended to over 50 countries, where she has shared her compelling stories of struggle and resilience. In her work, she chooses to focus on the humanitarian side of conflict, discrimination, and displacement. And something that I read online, which I really loved, is Mary says that her work stems from the question and definition of identity and universal ability for empowerment and resistance, which I think is very, very powerful. But that's not all. In 2012 and 2013, Mary was selected as a photographer of the year in Finland. She has published 6 books and also has directed various international documentary series and movies. Now, Mary is focusing her work on female genital mutilation in different countries. I mean, wow. So, Mary, how was that hearing that about yourself?
As a text, it sounds very much black and white in a way because it doesn't give much of a picture. It gives like these beautiful sentences what I have done, but uh, it's it's not much in a way that uh, you have to know the person itself to understand
Yeah,
what it
I
means to
totally
do a
agree.
job or what it means to actually love your work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But so and how we can learn even more is I would really like to start us off by you sharing your story and how your story has begun, and also what has made you inspired in becoming an activist.
Great. Maybe I start by telling where I come from. I come from the north part of Finland called Lapland. I'm from a small town called Kuusamo, and I'm from a big family, loving big family. And I always tell this story of how I was riding my bicycle to the school, and the bicycle got frozen on the way. So it didn't move when I was trying to ride it, and I had to leave it on the side of the road and walk the rest of the journey. So it means that I come from a very cold and dark place in a way. We have long winters. We have a week without sun at all. So these circumstances made me love above all nature, and I think that value has like become the leading force of what I do and who I am. And I just wanted to say it here in the beginning that I think the power of activism actually comes out from our roots. So the roots are everything to me, and I still think, or especially now, I think Kuusamo is the the most wonderful place on earth. I had to go very far to understand it, but now I feel that way.
Yeah, I definitely agree on you like with that. I think with a lot of people, I think it takes like seeing like something else or another like country in realizing how much you love your own like country. So I think that's very like beautiful what you said. Um, in terms of your career, what do you think was maybe a moment where you have realized that, oh, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
I left my home when I was 15 years old. I was bullied at school, and that's why I have quite complex relationship with my hometown. But in those years when I was in high school, meaning from 15 to 18, um, I lived alone in the capital, and I started to like be more and more interested about social issues, social and political issues. And at the same time, I bought my first film camera when I was 15 years old, and I was taking pictures of nature and of my friends and developing them in the dark room in a cultural center. So in those days, I realized, oh, I started to think, what comes if I combine these two passions of mine, the political activeness and then uh, the artistic side of me, the photography. And then these two became photojournalism. And I understood that the interest for stories and for understanding political phenomena, for example, uh, can be actually investigated through journalism. And then I was never like a, how to say, like a born writer. Like it wasn't my like first skill to approve, but um, but I understood that through the visual language of photojournalism, I can actually talk better, or I can write in a way better language.
I think that's also like a story that I can relate to as well. I think that's when I was like 15 or 16 too, I bought my first like camera, and I started like to take like pictures of my friends and family and like nature. But I think what's really inspiring for the event here today is that I didn't know that I could turn like something that I loved then in photography into something with involving my activism. So I think like this meeting here today is, I think, I hope that the people that are watching like can get inspired in turning your own like creativity into also like something else that you are very passionate on. Uh,
Exactly.
so when so when you started to be more involved in photojournalism, was there any like role models that you followed, anyone that you looked up to, or something that you said, "Oh, these these photos are what I want to achieve in the next few years"?
Mm. During the high school, I was reading a lot Noam Chomsky and also Norman Finkelstein. And my boyfriend in that time was an activist for Israel-Palestine conflict. And I think those years we went many times to Palestine, and I made my thesis in the university about the my English is lost now, how they are building houses back to families who lost them because the Israel army destroyed them. So like in these years of in the high school and also in the years of being in the university, I investigated all the time, like it's sad to say, but examples from abroad who are actually doing something that I would love to do, but nobody actually was doing in my own country. Of course, there are plenty of colleagues that I know now, 15 years later, who are doing beautiful and very important work. But I felt that I didn't have that many idols to look up to in my own culture, in my own country. And I think, okay, this is a big topic, but I felt that I have always felt that we have kind of like this island mentality here in Finland, that we don't actually look that much of other political situations in the world, that we are kind of focused in our own politics. And that also, I refer also to human rights. I have always felt from I was a child that we have universal humanity, that it's kind of the same. I didn't make difference between the color of the skin or the culture, the background of the culture, or any of those. I felt from childhood that we share something, that it's common, that actually we come from the same land and we go to the same land. So in this way, I was searching for examples of people who were seeing the world as I saw. And those were people who were focusing on human rights issues around the world, whether they were their own or whether they were somebody else's, it didn't matter. So these kind of people, they could be from any area of politics or culture or art. I didn't follow only photographers. I followed journalists, writers, theater makers, any kind of artists, politicians. But if they had this sense of like universal responsibility, I felt that it was actually like encouraging me to follow the same kind of path.
Yeah. I mean, and just to relate to what you said in the beginning on role models, I think a lot of it in every like country, but also here in Kosovo, it's we miss like sometimes we need a lot more light on those people who are doing these kind of things, because it can inspire like someone else who is just like starting off and say, oh, this person is doing it, so I can do it too. So yeah, I think that's really like crucial on every aspect, every field, that we shed light on people that are doing even the smallest thing, because that can help like push like someone else to do even more. And then, as you mentioned for the stories, I want to also ask you, how do you decide on what story you want to tell? Because there's a lot of issues that we see around the world, but then how do you say, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on right now?
It's a very important question, and I simply choose the stories that do not leave me alone. So
Wow.
in a way, it's a question of intuition. It's a question of what really interests you, because you cannot do or investigate or put all your energy into something that doesn't resonate in yourself, and nobody else can know what you should do. It's only you have to listen your own voice, that is it meaningful to you? And then you have to ask also, is it meaningful to the others? And what kind of, and then you start asking questions more and more, what kind of impact you want to achieve, what kind of discussion you want to create. And all these motives and the answers for these questions for your motives are actually the ones that will tell you should you do it or not. And like you said, the world is full of stories, and especially sad to say, but the world is full of stories of struggle and human rights violations. So how to even like compare them, which one is more important than the other? And you can't, because they are all as important. But then simply I have chosen the ones that actually resonate the most in myself, and where I have believed that maybe I can create something new. Because of course everything has been also made already. There has been journalists and photographers doing research about all those topics that we can talk about today. But then if you can add a new angle, if you can find a new perspective, if you can do something differently, then you should do it, because then you are actually creating something like new and meaningful that can create actually change or can develop things to the better.
Yeah, I think I really agree with you. And I think one of the most important things, especially when creating art, I think the first question that you really like need to ask is, do I love this? And does this like resonate with me, like you said? Because if you're doing like something that you don't love and you're doing it for others, then you're never gonna love what you do, you know? So that's always it always has to be the first like question that comes, because that's the question that pushes you to do even more and even better. So in terms of all of your art and your photography, maybe it's a difficult like question, but what has been maybe your favorite story so far that you've been able to share with the world?
It's a very hard question, because there are
I know.
so many, and
Pick
it's
any
impossible to choose one. I take the first one that, okay, I want to take maybe three, but let's see.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah. Um, the ones that strike me the most are the ones that I can feel and I can witness that they require so much courage from the person who is telling the story. And I could say that there have been moments and stories where people have really like crossed in a way their like selfly made boundaries and selfly made cages. And this is something very emotional to witness, because actually I always say that in this work you cannot actually witness change concretely, and
Yeah.
that's the thing that actually makes, or there is a danger that it can make you hopeless. But in those moments I have chosen to focus on individuals, because I believe in individuals. I believe an individual can actually like use their own potential in the way that actually that power becomes a common power or like a shared power.
Yeah.
And I would love to share, I would take an example for your question, women from Finland who shared their story for our latest book. It's called Vahvaksi rikotut, that can be translated into oh my god, broken to be powerful, in a way,
Okay.
fast one.
Mhm.
And they shared their story about sexual violence in Finland that happened through rape or through sexual abuse when they were children. And they came to this book with their stories very openly, very honestly. They wanted to be with their own faces and with their own names. So when we all read news about rape or incest or sexual abuse, it's almost anonymous. And that's why we don't get in touch with this topic, really, because it's such a big taboo that we don't get the real people to talk about it. We don't get the actual human faces to share those emotions and struggles. So I really thank for those women in this book who took that risk, that maybe their story will help some other woman or girl or man to survive from that trauma. They use their own example to prevent that kind of things to happen again for another person. So these kind of stories are the ones that that make all my motivation.
I think that's really like powerful, and especially like you said, with any like trauma or any human rights like violation, once you put a face to it and people can relate like to it, it's even more like powerful on what you're saying and how people can relate on that. So I also like want to thank the women who have shared their stories, because I really do agree that that's a powerful step. And we've also had like cases here in Kosovo as well with women who have shared their stories on rape. And I think that's going to help a lot of people and young women and men who have gone through that kind of trauma. So now I think what I also want to know in terms of it's also like related to what you said, but a bit more like specific. I think with your photos, what do you want people to see when they look at them? Like, what do you want an expression or a word like to be on their mind when they look at these photos?
It would be nice if I could choose, but I can't. It's above my power. When the photos and stories are there, they are
Out in the
they are
world.
not in my, yeah, they are out in the world, they are not in my hands. So but one thing I could say is that in a photo or in a portrait, let's say that way, portrait of a person, we can always recognize ourselves. So I believe and I hope that photos and stories from different cultural background, from different lifestyles, from different point of views and values, I hope that we can create a mirror where we can actually see ourselves through the other and maybe hopefully learn something from that person who might be very different from yourself, but actually can give you something as a present, like a lesson, a learning, anything. And if we are open ourselves for that, then I think something interesting is actually moving between the person, the viewer, and the person in the photo or the story in front of you. So it requires openness. And that's the only thing I wish from the viewers, and I wish from myself, to stay open as a child for the world and to learn and to understand, because it's the only key to actually to understand who we are and what we can become.
Mhm. I think you said that beautifully, and I think whenever like sometimes we are really like focused on conflict and who is right and who is wrong, when we look at a broader like perspective, I think what's really important for humanity and us, um, it's to connect with one another and to be open to just accept one another for who we are and what we want to do, because I think that's gonna push us like to do like so many like great things and just be more open to what the world can like what we can do for the world if we're all connected. Uh, and so in relation to being like connected with one another, I also want to see what your opinion is on now the pandemic has moved everything to more virtual as well. So like how do you think the pandemic has affected the activist spirit in us?
Mm, it's a tricky question, because I believe the human interaction is very concrete. I'm not
Mhm.
a person who loves the internet, or I'm not a person who loves to do all that communication online. So, but on the other hand, I feel that people are more and more open for also see what is going on around you in your own environment. And maybe it has like raised a question: how do we take care of our own communities and
Mm.
our own countries? Because if we are um, like forced to stay in place, then we have to find the answers and the keys how to live happily in this steady place. And I think it has kind of created this very positive echo of, okay, let's take care of each other, let's take care of this community, let's create a community that we can trust. And in that way it has created something positive for the like local politics. But on the
Mhm.
other hand, people have also used more social medias, and in that way it's also reaching out to other places, to other countries more easily, because now we are much more connected. Like, for example, the talk today, it happened like that. And it's
Mhm.
easy because now I have used this Teams and Zoom and everything, and it's very easy thing to do. And I feel that I'm almost there. I don't have to travel there to talk with you. And I think this has a huge potential that, okay, if we can bring people, if we can bring all these people together online, no matter how many or from where, we have actually so many like possibilities to create a
Mhm.
huge civil movements or um, um, potential.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think like oftentimes we like people see like social media and see all the negative that is out there, but I think there's a lot of positive things which we can use, like social media and technology, for being active and using our creativity to just inspire others and make a difference in our like country or community, like whatever that is. So I think even though the pandemic, as bad as it is, I think it shed a big light on what we can do through social media and through Zoom, like meetings like this, for in the future of like helping, inspiring, especially the young people on where we send the world in the next years ahead. So I do have my last question like for you, and then we will continue with a few like questions from the audience as well. So if you haven't like sent your questions yet, please do so in the chat. So my last question like for you is if you can tell us about the project that you're currently working on, the female genital mutilation in different continents.
It's a big question for being the last one, but I will summarize it, and people can ask me more in the social media if they want. But it's basically my project at the moment that I have been doing for the late 8 years, and I have been doing research and investigation in 12 different countries about FGM, female genital mutilation. And I am investigating mainly or focusing on the whole project on the activists, the local activists and the grassroots movements in different countries, and also doing research about the history of FGM and how is it being supported nowadays, for what reasons, and what kind of tools and like dialogue it requires in the countries where it's still practiced, from the local activists with the communities that still want to keep the tradition alive. So I have been basically documenting the everyday life of these activists, what they do, how they do it, what does it require, and how the change actually happens in everyday life, in conversations between elderly, or it's much it's how to say it can be summarized into a young girl's talk with a 75-year-old grandmother who is still very strict, thinking that we should keep this tradition, and this young 17-year-old girl is ready to give argument after argument after argument, and I can take photos and take notes and witness this change in action, and that's what this project is all about.
Yeah, I think that's very inspiring, and I will definitely like look forward to like learning more on that as well, like through your pictures. So thank you. Now I think we can move on to the questions. I am receiving a few on my phone as we speak. So I have the first question ready for you, and it's from Meira. I'm sorry if I missay your name. So for Meeri, where do you find the inspiration for your work? How did you find your call, as in when you know you were going to become a photojournalist, and everything that you are like today? I think you also like mentioned that in the very like beginning as well, in terms of like from high school and moving forward, right?
Yes, exactly. And I have been always a very curious person, so I think my inspiration stems from the curiosity to if there is taboo in the society, I need to find out. I feel that I'm addicted to that, like, right to know more and make questions. So I think the inspiration comes from that necessity that we shouldn't have these taboos, why we have these taboos, why we cannot talk about sexual abuse, why we cannot talk about women's rights, how do women earn, for example, 70 cents when the men earn €1. Why there are these things that we are not allowed to talk about, we are not allowed to change, because change always requires openness and this straightforward thinking. And I think the inspiration comes from that urge to ask questions.
Yeah, and I think the next question that I have here really like relates with that as well. The next question is from Armin from Bosnia. In your opinion, what is necessary that a society like we have in Western Balkans changes like Finland has done, in the sense of women empowerment and recognizing of women's role in all parts of society?
It's a very important question, and we have come a long way in Finland when it comes to women's rights. We have not been always like this, and I think we are in a pretty good shape in that, but we of course have things to improve. But I think everything starts, okay, two point of views for this question. The other one are laws. They are very important. The laws enforcement is very crucial, that the women get, or they gain the same rights than the men do. And the second one is the everyday life. How do you raise your children? What kind of values you give for them? How do you make men and boys respect girls and women, not only as their mothers, but as a fellow citizens. And I think it's very simple that the change happens in the grassroots, but the point to the eye is the law enforcement, and everyone can push to that. We can demand these laws to change, and we can demand, for example, how we demanded, or suffragettes demanded, women's right to vote. Everything starts with an individual and the group behind him or her, and then things start moving forward. But it requires that somebody says loud that it's not anymore a taboo.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like sometimes, especially as young people, we do like forget the power that we have in changing the law, especially. So it just takes the courage to just say, hey, I don't think this is right. And if anyone agrees with me, here's what we can do. But sometimes like we do like forget that the amount of power and impact that we have as young people, especially on changing the world for where we want it to be.
Exactly. Can I say one thing as a last thing? Yeah, two things. The one is that I always felt that I'm not alone. It's not about carrying a weight on your back and then trying to go forward. It's not about that. It's about actually realizing that you can do your small parts, and it becomes eventually a very big entity where people have participated and given their small thing. And that gives me hope that I'm not alone. I just have to like put my own part, and that I can do. I don't have to I don't have to change a thing by myself. I just have to participate. And I think that's the key in activism, that we are cooperating, we are doing cooperation. And I think it's the most beautiful thing that people can do. We can actually work together. And the last thing I wanted to say was that I love Balkans. I love the Balkan music. It's straight from my heart. I don't know where did it come from my ancestors, but it's really the music of my soul. So just to say it, to greet you and thank you for that music that you have created to this world.
Of course, yeah, I do love it too. So that we can definitely see eye to eye on. I think we we can end the like questions now. And I just want to like lastly like thank you again. Like really, it has been a pleasure like talking with you here today. And I think I say this for all the viewers at home that it's been such a inspirational and powerful, like hearing your story and seeing how you've turned your creative mind into activism as well. So thank you again. Uh, Now we will continue with a fun creative break where you will get to see Mary's amazing work. And after that, you should join us at 7 o'clock, where my colleague Velimir will talk to one of the most inspiring female voices in literature and art. Until then, thank you for joining again, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.